Since the first generation, the Golf GTI has been the undisputed king in the league of compact sports car. So successful that he had put his own name in the compact car division, the Golf class. Despite numerous competitors who have constantly made new attacks on his rule from model series to model series, no one has managed to knock him off his throne. He is and remains the king.
Guys, the king is dead. King Golf GTI D8. And this is his murder. Today we will find out how he made it and we will judge him. So normally when you're making a car review about a car like this, a car who kills the king, I mean a legend, you know, a car that made that thing possible that all his predecessors doesn't made it. Predecessors like the Ford Focus ST or the Opel Astra OPC and whatever all they call, you know. You should start by the history of this car and this brand. But the problem about this is that there is no really a history behind Hyundai and performance cars. So what they did is they start 2012, their racing division, to be a part of the World Rally Racing. In 2017 comes the first performance car on the market from Hyundai, the i30N. In first one was with 250 horsepower, and this one, the facelifting, has 280 horsepower. To be honest, by the modern today cars, it's not a big power numbers, you know. But the question still is how this car and how this brand made it to kill the king. So that's the reason why we drive today this car, to find it out. So let's stay by the performance part. So we are right now here on a nice twisty Swiss road with nice corners, and if you choose the right setting like we have it right now, the N performance setting, you immediately feel how much more sharper this car is. On the steering wheel, on the gas pedal, on the exhaust system, much louder, much poppier, and also the suspension is getting much harder. For my taste, maybe a little bit too hard, but it works great in the corners. And there you feel really the difference between this car and the Golf GTI. This car feels much more nimble and more fun to you as a driver. I don't know why. It's not the engine. It is a little bit a mix of the gearbox and the suspension, and also of the chassis, because it feels more lighter. And also the sound experience you have in the ride mode, it's great. It makes so much fun. So much more fun than a Golf GTI. And don't forget, this car is much cheaper. That's also a main point why this car kills the king, you know? Because you get a great car for much less money than a Golf GTI Club Sport, you know? Because I mean, the Club Sport is that GTI who is more near to the i30N than the normal GTI. And it's such a great car. So much fun to drive it sporty. And it is also so precisely on the steering wheel. Such a great feeling. You have so much feedback from the tarmac. And you have the feeling the more faster you drive it, the more feedback you have. And the more better you can decide which way through the corner you will take and which speed you want to take through the corner. Okay, here's the guy in front of us. So we will overtake him. Okay, so we can still drive sporty. Yes, and so if you see it at corners like this, 180 degrees, how great the grip is at this car. I mean, it's a front-driven car with 280 horsepower, and you have really non-stop on dry conditions like we have it here. You have a great grip, man. No grip losing, even not in the corners. I'm right now in the corner, push it hard, press the acceleration pedal, perfect. Whoa. Wow, I'm impressed, really. More than I thought. No, it's through the corners is much better than a Golf GTI. It's really much better. And there's the question, how they made it? Because I mean, there's not a big experience, but that must be the point. So they get the intelligent guys. They took the intelligent guys from the M division department from BMW, gave them more money to come to them to work for their performance cars, and they let flow all the know-how in cars like this, in the i30N. You feel there's a big know-how about how to make a funny pleasure performance car. Okay, to get a clear answer for the question how this car made it to kill the king, to push the Golf GTI away from the throne, we will take a look at this whole story in different chapters. Chapter 1 is the performance chapter, because I mean that's a performance hatchback. So, to check this out, you need good weather condition. This is what we have right now, plus minus today. You need a nice twisty road with the good tarmac, what we have in front of us. And you need to set the car at the right mode. So here comes the great point. This is really this is the first car that I sit in that I check out that this car has so many options and possibilities to set nearly every detail, everything at this car to your own taste. So we have here the N mode, where you can go in and then you get an info display. So there you have information about the G performance, you have the turbo, the Newton meters, and the performance info display. And also, if you want to stop your time, for example, if you're on a racetrack, you can also do it here. And here on the left side, you have an icon called Custom. So in there you can go in and set everything to your own taste. Means you can go and set however you liked the performance of the engine, of the gearbox, for example, of the LSD. This is the stability control, then the exhaust sound, the ESP traction control. We go here to sport. You have always 3 different settings that you can choose. So we go here, sports. Then also the steering wheel, the feedback, and how soft or hard the steering wheel should be. And at the end, the suspension, how hard or soft the suspension could be. So you see at the end, you can really nearly set every important point at this car that you need to set to your own taste before you start the driving performance. So I set it right now however I like it. And now we will find out for this chapter how performant this car really is. So I put everything on the maximum sportiest way that we can do it. Only the traction control is not in the maximum sportiest way, because then it will be deactivated. So we put it in the normal Sport Plus mode. But the rest is everything on the maximum performance mode that you can set in this car. And you feel immediately how great this steering wheel is, how much feedback you get from the steering wheel, how good the tarmac or bad the tarmac is, if it's slippery, if it's grippy. You hear how much louder this exhaust system starts to work, and how much more agile the gearbox and the engine is also start to work. And the suspension is also in the hardest mode, maybe a little bit too hard for this windy pass road like we drive it now, because it's a little bit bumpy. But I think that will be the perfect setting for a racetrack, like example Spa or Imola in Italy, or whatever all they calls. But it also works good. It's just a little bit too hard. Maybe we should took one point down on the suspension setting, a little bit a more softer setting. And this double clutch gearbox, it's one of the best and nicest double clutch gearbox I was ever driven until now. Much faster, much more precise than my double clutch gearbox from the M4 that I have. What I don't like at the double clutch gearbox is when you change to the reverse gear, it always took 2-3 seconds until the car go to the reverse gear. Same thing with the forward gear. When you go from the reverse to the forward gear, it always took 2 seconds until the car switched the gearbox. And it's a little bit wiggly. It's always wiggling a little bit. And that's a little bit what's disappoints me even more at my M4. Even more after I was driving this car. And Hyundai shows how easy it is to make a gearbox, a double clutch gearbox for a performance car, to change the gears immediately fast. It is so great to throw these cars to the corners. So here now it's a little bit get more slippery because the road is wet. And now you feel the car have trouble to put those 208 horsepower, 80 horsepower on the tarmac. By dry condition, no problem. The front axle works great on dry condition, but here on wet condition, yeah, you feel it is too much power for the front wheels. but not dramatic. It's not dramatic, it's anytime absolutely controllable. You just put a little bit, you take a little bit more speed out of the corners, and you can still drive the corners very sporty, very precise. You see, wow, man! The car makes so much fun. This car makes so much fun. Now we need to make a break because there is a truck on the road. All right, there we continue our sporty drive, and it is great, really. You cannot compare it to the normal Golf GTI, no chance. This car is something different. If you want to compare it to the Golf GTI, you need to compare it to the Club Sport GTI. The Club Sport have a little bit more performance in this car, and you feel it also, but the suspension, the gearbox, still much better here than by the Golf Club Sport GTI. And the fun factor, in case of this great sound that pops and bangs anytime when you change the gears, when you go away from the gas pedal, it makes so much more fun because it's so much more emotional to you as a driver. And to be honest, if a person decides to buy a car like this, it is a person that won't have fun with the car, that won't have emotions from the car, and the right way is when you get sound like this car. When you get sound, you can hear it, you can feel it, how fast and how funny you drive with this car. It makes you smiling, like me right now, because the sound is so important. And I think that's a point that many brands, many car makers forget it more and more, because it's getting always harder and harder with the law to put a great sound on a car, because the restrictions are even more harder and harder. But you see, Hyundai made it. So at the end, Volkswagen with the Golf GTI should also have no problem to make it, but I don't know why they don't do it, because I mean, a GTI is a sporty car. A GTI should sound, for example, like a R32, Golf 4, Golf 5, they was having great sound. Why they stop with this great sounds? So doesn't matter. You see, Hyundai made it, and that's also a big point why this car makes more fun than a Golf GTI. Wow! It is so great on the corners. Doesn't matter that we drive a bumpy road like here. It's so sovereign. You have so much trust in this car. You have so much trust in the grip, in the corners. It's great. The next question is, how is the trust to the brakes when you drive really fast the hill down? So normally when we're talking about the performance, we need also to talk about the braking performance. That means, so when you drive a pass sporty up, you also want to drive it sporty down. And the problem that I mostly have with cars is that when I drive it sporty down, I'm already after 4 or 5 corners, the brakes starts to fading. So, and that's what we want to try here. See how long you can drive this car sporty, the hill down, and how the brakes performs, or are they already start to fading early after 3-4 corners. So, for example, when I'm driving my M4, after 5 hardly driving corners, the hill down, it's already done because the brake point is no more good. The brakes start to fading. And here, by the i30N, it feels more sovereign to me. It feels more somehow more secure to me. I have more trust in these brakes than the brakes from the M4. So this is already the 5th corner that I took really sporty, drive hard, brake hard, and the brake pedal still feels like the first time well. And 7th corner, no problem, doesn't start to fading, and I really brake hard. I brake near before the ABS starts to working. Okay, well, here we have a little bit wet conditions, but still no problem for the car. Okay, good. Right now you still a little bit, the brake starts to fading a little bit, and from corner to corner, let me see, yeah, it's getting more and more, it's getting worse and worse. But I mean, already we are braking right now more than 10 corners really hard, but it feels well. It starts a little bit to fading, but it feels well. So you still trust this brake. I will also still trust this brake once again 10 corners more. I don't know how it is, for example, on a racetrack, because there are a little bit more harder conditions. But here, and I mean this hill here is go really deeply down, so, and the corners are really tight. But the brake is doing well. It's really a good brake. Okay, to be fair, the M4 brake, it is bigger, but the car is also heavier. But back to the GTI. The GTI brake from the normal GTI have less brake performance. If we talk again about this real comparison, the GTI Club Sport, the Club Sport has a little bit a more better brake, a little bit more a performance brake than this one. And I think if you go to the racetrack, the Club Sport is the better decision if we're talking about the brakes, huh? But I doesn't have experience really, to be honest, with this car at the racetrack and with the Club Sport. So the interior, if you compare it to a Golf GTI Club Sport, has less quality. The materials are more hard plastic, but at the end, what I more like, because I'm not a big fan of the Golf 8 interior, because it's just too clean for me, you know. I like this old school interiors with buttons and even better colored buttons and the big shift knob and all stuff like this. And this is more my taste, you know. But you see and you feel when you touch the surfaces, that the surfaces by a Golf GTI, yes, they are much better, much more premium, you know. But at the end, yeah, because it's a Hyundai and because we know it just like this from Hyundai, it's not a disappointment, you know. By a Golf it will be, because Golf always teach us over the many years how well the interior of a Golf could be. From a Golf GTI, for example, or a Golf R Sports, excuse me. And this is the reason why we never see it in another way from Hyundai. We accept it, you know. But at the end also, this car is cheaper, as I says. And this is where it starts, you know. The plastic stuff, this is where it starts, where you can save your money. The steering wheel is a great thing, because it reminds me somehow to a Ferrari steering wheel, you know, because you have all the major buttons that you need as a driver to get immediately from one setting to the other, to change your gears and all that stuff here, big in front of you. Not like by the Golf GTI in the middle console where you need to search it at the big screen. You have it here, so I can drive fast and change my drive settings, my customized modes, and changing my gears at the same time. And this is what makes so really fun. And it shows you how serious this car is as a driver cars. So all right, let's talk about optic and design. So we will start here from the back of the car, because this is the view that I most like at this car. So if you take a look, we have two big exhaust pipes. Reminds me somehow on a JDM car, on a race car. Then we have here in the middle an diffuser, an air diffuser, but there's absolutely no function behind it. It's just more nice looking, but no function, because it already stops after 10 centimeters under the car. So there's no really a big function how it works. And the rest, and we have here a big roof spoiler, looks nice. I think also there is a good function that it works also aerodynamically well. And on the left and right side you have some muscle bobs, however you want to call it. I think also there is no function behind it. It's just more a good looking and more aggressivity looking. You have many of this black matte non-colored plastic. I'm not a big fan of this, to be honest, but somehow at this car it works. With the black color it works well, and it matched also with the color from the alloy wheels on the 19-inch. It looks nice. It doesn't look cheap in my eyes. You have it here branded with the N Performance logo, so it works well. If you go sidely by the car, the whole silhouette looks nice and aggressive, and it is really a nice sporty looking hatchback. When you take a look at the front, this is the facelifting front. Many people love it and like it. I'm a little bit more the fan of the previous front, because the previous front of the i30N reminds me somehow at the Nissan GTR model. So it is a nice one, but I like the other one. I prefer more the other one because it looks more aggressive to me than this one. This is a little bit too, it looks too Asian cars to me, you know. It looks like the most Asian cars looks, but it looks nice. You have here big openings for air vents, for air cooling, for an air channel for the who goes here out by the wheels and put out all the heat of the brakes out. So everything here has a function in the most cases, and it looks really nice. It looks fresh, it looks aggressive. In my eyes, it looks more nicer than a normal Golf GTI, but not so nice like a Golf GTI Club Sport, because the Club Sport looks more serious to me than this car. But you know, at the end, everybody see it in his different way, so this is my way of how I see it. It is really a nice car.
Que só uma Deus não para.